right, welcome. Ricky, thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to do our next edition of Business Owners Speak Out. So let's just jump right in. Ricky, tell us who you are, the name of your business, and how long have you been in business?
Yeah, sure. Sounds great. Thank you, Andy. So my name is Ricky Aviles, and I'm Vice President of Novo Dia Group. We are a software company here in Austin, Texas. We started Novo Dia Group in 2009 of January. So a little bit over 11 years we've been in business, and we develop tablet point of sale solutions for small corner stores, farmers markets, and convenience stores across the U.S. And I've been in this particular industry for over 20 years now. And me and my business partner have been working together for over 25 years. So this is our second company that I've been with him. We were part of a previous company that we sold. So yeah, been in operation that long and love what we do, and love that we were able to bring technology to lower income Americans that need access to their healthy benefits.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. So you said you've been around since 2009, so you're ahead of the curve. So who would you say, you talked about the corner stores, but so who do you really serve? Who is your best customer? Is there any other way to define them?
Sure. Some people call them Class C merchants in the industry, but really they're, like a Target or a Walmart would not be a best fit for us because they already have all their solutions. But a mom and pop store, bodegas, mobile vendors, any of those small stores, really a small business owner that is trying to sell products, whether it's healthy foods or whatever they're selling on their shelves, they typically get left behind because they have to figure it out themselves, right? Mm-hmm. And typically the bigger companies develop solutions for the bigger companies. Right. So we've gone out and carved the niche out for ourselves and really targeted those small to medium sized merchants.
Well, thank you very much. We love that.
Yeah,
shop
yeah,
small,
for sure.
Shop local right now. That's our mantra.
Exactly. Yeah, and we know how tough it is being a small business ourselves. So we definitely understand their pain points and what they're kind of going through.
Excellent. So tell me this. What has been the greatest impact COVID had on your business in 2020?
Bad or good?
Well, you tell me. Some people tell me the good, some people tell me a mixture. It's up to you. We want again, the purpose of this is so that other business owners can learn. Because I'm going to have a follow-up question to what are you doing in 2021?
Sure. I think, for me being in the IT business or the software business, we pivoted very quickly to working remotely. We had everything set up to do that already. All we had to do is just bring more keyboards or mice to our houses, right? But we pivoted in March, and our office was shut down since March. And I think what it's shown is that you can definitely work remotely, but you have to make sure that your communication is actually a little bit tighter. And when I say tighter is that you have to touch more frequent versus just having, your weekly meetings or whatever it is, because there's things that can happen between Monday and Friday, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So communication is key in having, whether it's Slack or any of those communication tools open. I always like to over communicate what we're trying to do that week and making sure that, okay, are we still on target for that week? So that's probably been the biggest lesson that I've learned is like anybody can work remotely, right? And you have to trust your employees. Otherwise, why hire them if you don't trust them? So that's been the biggest thing for us is communication. We're probably communicating better than we were before, which is interesting because normally what would happen is that we would have discussions pop up as you're working. So probably less interruptions as well because they're scheduled conversations, right? So when you're in an office environment, people can just come and say, hey, I got something I want to bounce off of you, right? Right. Well, if you're in the middle of something that's requiring a lot of brain power, that's gonna like make you stop and then
Right.
make you think about it, and then you got to pivot back. So I would say that for me especially, I get less interrupted, which is good because I get sidetracked very easily. So really scheduled, focused communication meetings, and I think it's allowed us to probably, I would say, I have to look back, deliver a little bit more on time and execute better.
Oh, I
So
love it. I
that's
love
been
the
the
intentionality of that.
yeah, I think that's been the biggest, now what I will say is we do miss the interaction, and we do miss being able to, like your whiteboard you have there, Andy, being able to get everybody together in a whiteboard, something, it's just hard to do that remotely. You know that, or just kind of brainstorm. The brainstorming exercises are very hard to do remotely. I will say that. Because you can't use the whiteboard, right? I mean, you can on the tools, but it's just different. It just comes across different. So
Well, I
if
tell you
you're,
what, maybe for another call, I can show you how this works really well with clients, because this is, my world I live in and getting people to brainstorm. But I think that's wonderful
yeah,
how hard you pivoted and how intentional you've been with that. And I too, I've heard that 1,000 times this year about,
mhm,
our personalities. I miss people, right? I'm a hugger. I like to just, high
right,
five, knuckles, just be around the human interaction. So this has
mhm,
been a challenge, I think, for everybody. But here's the next question on the docket. So tell me, we know 2020 was a challenging year, right? Everybody can agree to it. I call it the 5 years of COVID. What
mhm.
are your goals for 2021? So you and your business partner, what are your goals for 2021?
Yeah, one of the big goals is online delivery for these small merchants. Right now, a lot of these small merchants don't have an e-commerce site because they can't afford it, or they don't have an IT team.
Right?
So we're expanding their e-commerce capabilities, just like you can go to Walmart or HEB and buy groceries online. Well, Joe's Corner Market should have that same capability, but they don't because they don't have the funding to do that. So we are trying to work with USDA and our federal partners to hopefully put some budget around that so that we can deliver a solution that they can utilize for the future. Obviously, for the rest of this year, I think online delivery is still going to happen. And if you're living in an area where there's not an HEB or Walmart, and the only option you have is Joe's Corner Store, and they don't have online delivery, you're right now you're being forced to walk into the store, right? Or if you're elderly, right? So I think people sometimes forget about that, the socioeconomics of not everybody has access to an HEB like we do here in
Right.
Austin, like within, yeah. So the accessibility of that, we're working on a lot of everything that we're doing is accessibility for these small merchants and being able to get to their customers, their constituents.
Love it. All right. So tell me this. What do you see as
Mhm.
being your biggest challenge to achieving those goals for this year?
As always, with anything you're delivering or developing new, it's just, I will say that when you are creating something from the ground up, it is harder to do that remotely than if you're just adding on to a product. So we're going to have to be really focused and intentional on what we deliver every week. So for us, that's going to be key. And then on the other hand is making sure that folks know how to use this, right? Because you have folks that may not folks that may not want to order online anymore, right? Or they've just
Right.
never done it, right? They're in that group that they never done it. So now you got to somehow market that, communicate that, and then educate people on how to do that, right? And then you have a small business owner that's like, okay, how do I get this inventory on the website, and how do I expose that to whoever it is, right? So we're going to have to be really focused on the marketing aspect of it and how we roll it out for these customers. So I would
Excellent.
say that's going to be that's always our biggest challenge, honestly, is we have all these cool tools and technology, but we always forget, like, some people just aren't in it every day. So we got to figure out how to make it simple enough so that it's easy to use. So that's,
Oh,
that's
that
really our
is
goal.
awesome. It's really interesting you said that. It's, one of those words that I use to describe what we do. It's implementation. And it's because, I always joke
Hmm.
because everybody likes change. And we forget, as business owners, we like change. We're constantly in the never ending change, change, change. But the constituents, those people out there, you know, like my father, he still uses the yellow pages. He's like, hey, where's this? Let me just get it out. You know, he's 80, so he's back to the yellow pages. And of course, all the grandkids are like, Grandpa, it's right here on the phone. So thank you very much for recognizing that, because that will help the marketing for it. So it has been said that smart people learn from their mistakes and wise people learn from the mistakes of others. What mistakes have you made along the way, and how can other entrepreneurs learn from you in your, you know, your second or third business that you're running today?
I've made plenty of mistakes. I will tell you that.
Me too.
But I was very blessed to have a lot of mentors early on. I had a lot of mentors early on, and then my business partner, I consider him a mentor. And then he also had mentors along the way. So what I will say is, if you're young and starting out, get 2 or 3 mentors that are in your industry. Especially it helps if they are in your industry, and then either get a business coach like yourself as well. But you want to find somebody that's in your industry that can help you along the way for sure, and you can learn from. You know, my biggest thing early on, I was really kind of overly aggressive, I will say, early on, because I was trying to climb the ladder. So now I listen more than I speak. I listen a lot more than I speak, whereas before I was trying to showcase how smart I was, which was a big mistake on my part. So I would say listen more and just absorb, you know, what's going on, and whether it's a meeting or in a conversation, and just pick up how people interact, you know, how a business deal is done, or how something is communicated to somebody else. You know, I like I said, I had a lot of mentors. I had this guy from Wisconsin. He was really good at communicating to people. Like, I would say it and people would be like, and then he would say it and it was just like, oh, like a bulb would come on. I'm like, what did he say differently? But it was really how he broke it down. He simplified it so well and so like patiently that people were like, wow, okay. So I learned to slow down a little bit in my delivery and not be so rushed, right? Don't be so rushed. Don't try to knock out 100 things because you're so smart and can do it. Just, you know, focus on the important things and deliver them really slow, and make sure that your audience gets it. So I like I said, I made a ton of mistakes early on in my career. I would admit that. You know, I was, like I said, I was too overly aggressive on trying to showcase what I knew. And you see a lot of that. You see a lot of that from a lot of folks that are just starting out. But you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. I always look back and go, what would I tell my 23-year-old self? So I applaud you for saying that, because that would be one of the things, like, hey, maybe you should be quiet, Andy. So I love that. All right, so, that, you know, there's so much going on in today. So tell me, you're in the business community. Obviously, we know each other from some networking groups and so forth. But tell me, what is most inspiring to Ricky today?
Today, you know, I from you know, what I always tell people is, if I'm working in the IT field, I like to solve real problems. No offense against the Angry Birds app, but that's not really solving a problem per se, right? So everything that we do is intentional, right? There's an intent behind it. There's a problem that needs to be solved in the community that nobody's solving. So I always say I like working on technology to solve problems, and I also like working on industries that need to be disrupted. I've always had a passion to get into something in real estate and disrupt that industry. I just haven't had the time or brain power to do it, because I think it's one of those industries, and you see a lot of people coming into that box now and starting to play and disrupt it. But anytime you can disrupt an industry, it's great for the consumer, right? It's great for the consumer, right? Because like Uber, perfect example, right? You know, there's so many examples out there nowadays, right? But I like solving problems that impact the community for sure, and disrupting industries. But right now, my passion is to get to these small, medium-sized business owners and get their business back up, right? Because they're suffering. Their sales are down, and they need the most help out of everybody.
Excellent. Well, Ricky, that's the end of our interview. I want to say thank you very much. I love your interview, and I hope, like always, somebody on this call of our 12,000 connections will find value and actually learn from it and be able to implement something in their business.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you doing this. Appreciate you reaching out. Appreciate it. Thank you.